Alright, so as promised, a little update. I made my floats today. It's a 1-inch styrofoam. Cut out the little holes using a tool from a hobby store. It actually kind of melts it. You can write your name if you wanted to, but to trim out all the holes, I went ahead and threw in a few plants, and I know I said I'd wait a week for putting fish in, but I tested everything and everything was great. And so I put in about 3 or 4 little goldfish just to see if everything was okay. 3 hours later, they are still doing great. They're just swimming around, just loving it. So I'm glad that they didn't die. I know it sounds horrible to try to use a few fish as a guinea pig to see if all your readings were correct, but all the readings were correct, and so the 3 guys I put in there, they're swimming around and doing good. You can see that little guy over there on the backside, a little fish food being strained. So anyways, I threw some plants in just to kind of see what's going on. I did add some water. I added, I think, about 15 gallons of water from my goldfish pond. It's a 400-gallon system, so I was able to top it off with a water hose. It didn't really affect the system, but it did allow for a lot of the nutrients and whatnot to come into this system to get the cultures going and everything else. This here, believe it or not, it's only temporary, but this here is a zucchini plant I had inside underneath grow lamps. I'm a pretty good sized fella, and that leaf is over 9 inches wide. So it was just kind of needing to move it out of inside, putting it outside. It will not stay here. Zucchini, they'll get very big and very large and kind of lay over and take up a lot of room. Down towards the end, another transplant just a little while ago. This is a spinach. Planted a few little baby seed spinaches. A few of them come up. This one I chose to bring out here. It's just now dealing with the transplant from inside the house to outside in a very similar system, so it ought to snap back pretty quick. And then what we have down here is lettuces. The sun's kind of shining. But these are just lettuce plants, nothing fancy. I believe iceberg lettuce, some of the easiest and cheapest. This guy here was doing really well inside. Maybe a little bit of leaf burn from the lights, but it's doing really good. And all these plants are a little bit wilty looking, a little bit like, you know, what the heck just happened? But they'll snap back, they'll grow good. We'll be able to trim off lettuce, or I can let it develop into a head. As you see the little grow grips, they work very well in this system. Even the bigger stock like this guy here, they worked really good. There was a lot of time involved cutting out these rafts, but when you kind of stand back and look at it, there's a lot of grow space. There's a whole lot of grow space, so we'll be able to fill this guy up in a week or so, maybe a little longer, with some more arugula, kale, lettuce, spinach, some of the lower greens. I've seen some videos where they actually do like beets and radishes because they're down in the water. These styrofoam floats, I was asked, you know, we get a lot of wind sometimes. Is the wind gonna just like pick them up and throw them out? Well, they're pretty tight fit. Check out this guy's roots. They're a pretty tight fit, and the water actually creates kind of a suction across the bottom of the float. So it's you know, it's water tension. The same idea about, you know, if a dragonfly or whatnot flies on tops of water and it can stand on the water and not sink, it's called water tension. If you ever filled up a glass of water drip by drip, the water will actually exceed the top of the glass before it pours over the side. So that's the best way I can explain water tension. These guys, some of the roots are a little bit bigger and a little bit healthier. Like I said, I just transplanted these fellas. Let me get these leaves out of here. I just transplanted them, so they're gonna look a little bit droopy right now. They'll bounce back real quick. I'm sure that tomorrow evening they'll be doing great. I had already mentioned about a couple of fish I put in there. One thing I do like about this system, being a deep water culture, as opposed to the ebb and flow or the fill and drain system, is that the sump, just that one characteristic, is actually kind of nice. This sump here constantly gets filled up and drained and filled up and drained, depending on which bed is draining at which time. And so the water level doesn't stay very consistent. At sometimes it's kind of low. It doesn't get so low that the pump can't get water up, but it gets pretty low and it fills up, and it fluctuates. There's a whole lot of splashing, which is great for putting oxygen in the system. This guy here, being our deep water culture, it's a very consistent flow. So in reality, I could actually put fish down here and those fish would do very well. Like I've said before, the #1 key for the aquaponics system, especially with a deep water culture, is the oxygen. Sorry about that. Dissolved oxygen. This guy is putting oxygen into the system just by pouring in there. That oxygen in turn is coming up into here, which is another oxygen-rich system. It's got some air bubblers, and as you can see, even the air bubbles are being sucked into our fill pipe. And then there's oxygen. And then on top of that, we have these 1/4-inch air lines. And as we go down, let's just pick a spot, like maybe here, I don't know. I don't know if you can see, but the air bubblers are providing oxygen on the underside so that the roots get plenty of oxygen and the nutrition from the fish waste, the whole system of ammonia to nitrate, which is a biological system, and the system's set up. Once I get this all filled up, the plants will do well, and my maintenance will be next to zero. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave some comments. This is Steve with CNS Organics on YouTube. My wife had proposed I could possibly do a couple of classes to kind of show people how this system works, or even the ebb and flow system works, and we'll see what happens there. But that's it for now.